I'd like to call the meeting to order. Our first item is our Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Vice Chair, could you please read our mission statement?
The mission of Marshall Public School District is to educate, support, and prepare all learners for success.
Thank you. Motion to approve the agenda. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Before you approve that,
So can we just bump presentations down maybe 10 or 15 minutes? We're trying to get a ride for one of the parent-student connectors. Be here if that would be all right with you.
That'd be great. Do we need to make a formal motion on that or just, okay. So it will just be done. Anything else? We'll call for a vote. It is approved. Public forum. Anybody in the public that'd like to approach the board, now's your time. On to our consent agenda. Do we have a motion to?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please vote. It is approved. Under our financials, Mr. Lamprick.
Mr. Chair and fellow board members, our bills for the period of February-March by fund category are as follows. The general fund, $1,328,784.24. The food service fund, $161,376.67. The transportation fund, $163,640.40. Community Services Fund, $16,364.68. Capital Outlay Fund, $145,861.59. The Construction Fund, $12,988.80. The Debt Service Fund, $2,900. The Student Entrepreneurial Fund, $166.96. That makes a grand total of $1,832,083.34. And I would recommend approval of the bills for the period February-March, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. It is approved. Any questions on the treasurer's reports? Any extra comments? Board forum, board members, anything you'd like to bring up?
We had a Pride in the Tiger meeting last week, and Pride in the Tiger gave away just over $19,000 in fund use requests for, I think that's we do it twice in 2018? Twice a year. Yep. So that's for the first part of 2018. And then also the Pride in the Tiger Senior Banquet is Wednesday, May 23rd at 6:30 p.m. And they're anticipating giving away about $156,000 in scholarships.
how many requests do you get for the
Fund use?
Yeah.
We had just over $23,000 requested, and then gave away, well, just barely under, well, actually barely under 20, 19.9. So it was, and the reason that some of the requests weren't granted, because it didn't go with the mission statement, but I think pretty much everyone got at least a partial. Oh, and then, sorry, one more thing. Right now, Janelle Wartner is the interim director, and we're looking at, discussion was had, will we hire another full-time director? Will we hire a part-time director? So that's still kind of ongoing.
Very good. Anybody else?
I have a meeting of the collaborative on Wednesday, a bi-monthly meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on. School board goals progress update.
Excuse me, this is just for informational purposes like we've done every month, where there's information, specific information about the two goals that you have established as a school board and the actions, I guess, that you're pursuing, and then how you're going about accomplishing the action to achieve the goal. So I think things are going well, as the report indicates, and if anyone has anything to add, please do so.
Very good. Administrator's report.
I'll go through and highlight a few of the items from each of the reports. In my report, I shared information about summer college credit earning courses that will be offered through our Achievement and Integration plan, specifically incentive funding this summer. I think we have, if I'm not mistaken, 16 students who have qualified to take those courses and expressed an interest. So this will be the first time that we're offering those and hoping that they go well. I believe in the reports there were a couple of us that shared information about the ACT prep day that took place for juniors 2 weeks ago. I think it was a couple days after we had all the snow. In Tiffany's report, she shared that registration for classes next year is underway. That can be done online, and certainly if there's questions about something, families can reach out to the ECFE early childhood offices. She also shared that Pathway 2 funds that are, I'd say, left over, is that right,
Yes.
Bruce? Will be used for summer classes. Those funds are left over because of the voluntary pre-kindergarten and school readiness plus funding. So that's a good thing. We're going to be able to offer some classes in the summer, and I think there's later on the agenda a couple of action items regarding those. In Darcy's report, she shared an update about the PBIS program at Parkside, and then also had a couple items related to February I Love to Read month, and also Dr. Seuss's birthday, and Bruce and Tricia dressing up in some pretty funky costumes. So I think so. Don't know anything about it. Okay. Jeremy's report, he shared information about the clinicals that took place, the SMSU clinicals on March 15th and 16th, and how we utilized that time to pull some of the staff together at Westside and do some professional development activities. And he also shared that Westside students are 60% of the way to their 10,000 book challenge. So they have a ways to go, but having read 6,000 plus books already is very good for about 375 students. Mary Kay shared information about the after-school programming that and some activities associated with that. And then, as she always does, she did a nice job of providing updates about student achievements and also opportunities for middle school students. Brian also shared in his report that registration for next year is underway, and shared some information and thoughts regarding graduation rates. In Michelle's report, she shared that 7 of the Maytech students participated in the ACT Prep Day at SMSU a couple weeks ago. She also shared some pictures about how the Child Care Center celebrated I Love to Read month, and kind of a neat story about 3 students who stood up for another student and kind of helped them, if you will, and the recognition that those 3 students received. Bruce Remy's report included information about winter sports ratings by the officials, and I looked at the ratings and I thought that they were outstanding. And then he also shared that the high school math team and the middle school math counts teams qualified for state competitions, which is exciting. Amran, you're on that?
Mm-hmm.
Good job. Way to go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Amanda shared information about staff development and testing, and also shared that our new teachers, some of them learn more about sort of other cultures with some presentations that they participated in recently. Jim will be here shortly and will share additional information about our awesome parent-student connectors. Jackie shared information in her report. She gave an update about various special education items and also professional development opportunity that special education staff recently participated in. Bruce.
A couple things to share. First of all, in regards to the Food for Kids program, the packaging that took place here in February at the middle school, 98,500 meals that were packaged by Rotarians and the National Honor Society in grades 5, 6, 7, and 8. Great program, and kudos go to certainly to everybody, but specifically Eric Luther and his leadership of that program over the past, I think, almost 10 years that we've had it in place. And I think, Karen, we're getting real close to the 1 million meal mark. Yeah, I think by next year we'll get that accomplished. So that's a great program that happens every year in the February dateline. Our workers' comp insurance, our experience mod, which is basically how many claims that we've had and lost time and whatever, is going up. It's at currently 1.02. It's going to 1.18 approximately starting in October, which is not good news. A lot of that is driven by lost time with specific claims. If we have somebody that's out, say, a couple of weeks or whatever, it really adds up and causes our experience mod to change. It wasn't too many years ago we were at 0.87, and quickly within about 3 years we're going to be at 1.18. So what that means is additional premium for our work comp program. Another insurance-related thing, our life and LTD programs are going to go out to bid through National Insurance Services, and we hope to have a recommendation coming forward in May in regards to life and LTD. And working hard in the district office along with the food service department in preparation for the food service audit for Parkside School for the 16-17 year, but they also include our current program of 17-18. There'll be an on-site review happening April 23rd and April 24th. So a lot of information that needs to be gathered that we've been doing here in the district office along with Lori Froon with the food service audit, and we're hoping to be well prepared for that event to take place. So that's my report.
Thank you. Ladies.
We had the National Walkout Day at the school. It was very nice, and lots of students have participated in it. Cultures United is planning to have a big culture festival day on May 4th. Make sure all of you guys are there. And we hope that the community is going to be there too to take part of this event, because it's going to be so much fun.
Is that normally in the evening?
Yeah, it's going to be right after school. It's on Friday, so.
Juniors will be taking the ACT on April 3rd, and we're in a program called On to College that is helping us prepare for this. And tomorrow we're going to be taking like a full-blown practice ACT for 8 until like 12:30, I think. And then our BPA team went to state competition 2 weeks ago, and a lot of the students went to nationals, and I think Ms. Kellen said that it's a new record of the amount of students who went to nationals this year.
Your math team won, right?
Yeah, we got first place in our division.
Pretty impressive. Very impressive. Thank you. Moving to our discussion items, our first review of policies 407, 410, 412, 413, and 414. 714, excuse me. Any questions?
I would just make a comment to take a close look at policy number 714. That's in regards to fund balance policy. Our finance oversight committee met last week with Scott and I, and we work that through, and so we have a recommendation. So if you haven't looked at it yet, make sure before the next meeting that you take a look, and if you have any questions, to give Scott or myself a call.
Legislative update.
Okay, this is, I believe, week 5 of the legislative session. From what I understand, it's scheduled to adjourn on May 21st. As many of you know, the most recent state budget forecast called for a surplus for the state of Minnesota for almost $330 million. So that's kind of been up in the air, and there's been a lot of discussion about that since that amount came out. We're going to see some important committee deadlines in the next couple weeks. I think this week, actually, May 22nd, is the first committee deadline, which means that, and then there's another one, the 29th, if I'm not mistaken. And bills have to be heard in committee by those dates before or if they're going to go to the House or Senate. So in a couple weeks, I think we'll have a better idea relative to specifically policy items, what's going to move forward and what's not. It seems like there's kind of 3 major themes that have come out of the legislative session as it relates to education. One is school safety, which we've read a lot about. I think the governor and the House and Senate have all proposed something. They've all said that it's a priority for them. We've seen things like new funding or additional levy or more flexibility to utilize existing funds for things like building improvements, different programs, and even staff. We're also seeing some information about intervening and supporting expelled students or situations involving expelled students. I think of caution here. I've read a couple times when there's been some statements that funding may be one-time funding, may not go on forever, so that's something we're going to have to really monitor. But it's good to hear about school safety being a priority, and as I kind of look over a lot of legislative documents, I think that's something that will stick at the end of the legislative session. The second major theme seems to be doing something with the teacher retirement account. I know the governor has allocated some additional revenue to offset the proposed increases in the employer rates for TRA, but that's something that kind of we'll wait and see what happens. And I found it interesting in a couple different places that it was stated that the credit rating for the state of Minnesota might continue to go down if the state pension problems are not addressed, and the cost of that credit rating through borrowing and having to pay higher rates could actually cost more than fixing the pension. So it's the first time that I'd heard that, or maybe I'd heard it and just hadn't recognized it before. And then the third theme I think that has sort of started to come forward is just the need to do something with special education, and what I think that something will be is sort of a task force. Might be legislators, but primarily I think it's been proposed 18 members that are familiar with special education to really look into how we do special education and deliver those services in Minnesota, and maybe look for ways to decrease the cost of delivering those services. So those are kind of the 3 major themes. We've also heard from different places some ideas about ongoing or continuing funding for voluntary pre-kindergarten and school readiness plus, maybe providing early learning scholarships and access to free or low-cost classes for 3- and 4-year-olds and their families. We've heard more about background checks, changes to state assessments, and some changes in terms of policy regarding school bond referendums. So I think over the course of the next 2 weeks, like I said, once the policy deadlines come and go, committee deadlines come and go, we'll have a better sense policy-wise what will happen. And we also, I think, need to pay attention to what the MDE supports. Obviously, what the governor has put forward is what the MDE is going to support, but when they are asked to testify about something else, I think it's valuable to pay attention to what their testimony is. ultimately, I think legislators know that if the MDE doesn't support it, it's not likely that the governor will support it, and maybe that has less momentum building up. So a lot going on, a long ways left to go, but some positive things I think that have emerged from the session so far.
Thank you. Sure.
So Jim, would you like to bring our parent-student connectors up? And we would appreciate that.
Welcome.
Well, thank you. Okay, so really good reason why I'm late. Fartun, our great parent-student connector, was with the student at the emergency room. This is exactly something that they do. So it's kind of not real good timing to ever be in the emergency room, but a really good show of our school board, what our parent-student connectors do. So it's absolutely my honor to be talking about our parent-student connectors and to try to explain a little bit about our parent-to-student connectors program that we have here at the Marshall Public Schools. I do want to go out and first of all, thank you as a board for allowing our students, our staff, our teachers, our family, our, just everybody involved in having parent-student connectors at our building. I think Mr. Munson can speak from talking with a number of students that a lot of schools do not have people like we got. And the amount of time and energy that they can save us and the amount of expertise that they bring to the table as far as knowing families, knowing what they've been through, it's amazing. And it's just, it's helped our EL program, our minority students out greatly. I mean, words can't express how much good things that having these 4 individuals with us will do. So what I'd like to do first, if we can just scroll over, I think I have pictures of our parent-student connectors. So I would like to introduce them to you, or actually I would like them to have a couple minutes to just introduce themselves. So if you guys, they're going to really do a couple things. First of all, I asked them to introduce themselves, and then I asked them if they could just kind of tell us their journey over here to the United States. They'll give you the short version, but I think you're going to find that some of them are pretty amazing stories. So in no particular order, who's coming first? Tina, come on. You're always our leader, so come on up here, please. So. Lady first. That's right. Floor is yours.
Thank you. First of all, thanks to everybody. I think everybody knows who I am. My name is Tina Quiñones, and I've been in the district for almost going on 10 years. I started as a volunteer here at the Parkside School as a grandparent. Therefore, now everybody calls me grandma here, grandma there, grandma Tina. I started in Parkside 10 years ago, and about 5 years ago, I started here at the middle school. But I think you need to know where I came from. I came from Mexico City. I was born in a town called Guanajuato. And then I went to Mexico City, and I was raised in Mexico City. I came into the United States when I was 13 years old. So I can sympathize with the students that come in here right now, because I've been through the journey, not as hard journey as they have, because I was here, I came in as a U.S. citizen right away. I stayed probably in Mexico, probably about a month in the border of Laredo, Texas. But I do know what it is to be a 13-year-old girl that does not know how to speak English and does not know what entails to be in this country, this wonderful country of ours that we have. I did not want to go to school, because even though I was a 5th grader in Mexico, when I came into the United States, I was high school. But yet they wanted to put this woman into a kindergarten class, and I said, no way, Jose. My mother was a farm worker, so she traveled from place to place, which was something that I was not accustomed. I came to this country, I was not accustomed to the things that you guys do, the things my mother did, especially being a farm worker, going from place to place. That was not my dream at all. So I was a very young mother. I was married very young. And my goal was to have my kids have an education better than I have. And my kids know that it is better, they need to do better than I am. And so therefore, my kids got education, and school has been my biggest dream. Ever since I was a little girl, I wanted to be a teacher. I just never accomplished that. I've done other things, but not being a teacher. Therefore, what I do here in the community is I do it because I love the kids. To me, it's nobody can pay me money enough to get the hugs that I see from the kids or adults that come in and say, "Hi, Grandma Tina, how are you?" You know, nobody can take that away from me. You know, and I'm hoping that if I can only get one student out of the poverty, I did my job. Just one. Not, I don't ask for much. But I would like to thank everybody for the great help and support that you guys have given me. I love what I do, and I do it with pleasure. I don't ever care how many hours I spend, how many, I'm a 24/7 woman, My kids are always the first priority. A lot of people say, "Tina, I think you're doing, you're doing too much, more than what you're supposed to do." I do, but I don't think I can change the parents right now. My changes is going to be when the second generation, third generation, is when we're going to make a difference. Right now, it's too late for me to do anything with the parents. I try to do my best with the parents, but they come in from another country where there's no education whatsoever. No education whatsoever. They don't know how to read or write English or Spanish or their own language, which is Quiche, that we get a lot of people from Quiche, from Guatemala, they speak Quiche and Mum. Things that I don't know anything about the countries, the other day we were asked to do a presentation about the customs. I don't know the customs. I don't know the customs of even my own country, being that I came in here and I just had the customs of the American people, I know how you guys work. You guys like paper trails. You like to be on time, So those are the things that I learned, and the education is, I don't know how much I can tell people, and I tell my students, you guys need to go to school. And I put myself, no matter what I talk to a student, I put my life experience and tell them I'm not embarrassed to tell them that I was not, it wasn't very good for me not to go to school. But because I had nobody that was in there to push me to go to school, nobody. But now that is my goal, to get the kids education. We do a lot of things. I have been able to acquire last year a grant, which I took my kids to do a lot of things. We went to the state capitol, and the kids were in an awe. Oh my God. I said, see, you guys can come in here and learn and to be as volunteer, because you're allowed to be a volunteer there. I was a coach for the soccer, U15. We went to a hotel in Mankato. The kids go, "Oh, can I take a towel?" I said, "No, you can't take a towel." Why? I never seen such a white towel, So those are the things that the kids, I don't think anybody can take those experiences, that we get, from going to the state championship, which we won. The capital, we went, all those experiences that I'm giving those kids, I don't think anybody can do that. And today my goal is, I like to partner with all those people. So I'm always a volunteer here, volunteer there. Right now I'm partnering with the Catholic Church to do all kinds of things during the summer already. So I'm always looking forward to see where I can find resources to give the experience to the kids, We went bike riding last year, from West Side all the way to Camden Park. And the mayor said, "Tina, next time you go camping, please come to me and I'll loan you the helmets, Tina." So I was. The next time we went, the mayor came in and brought us the helmets. And so this year I already told the ladies, I said, we're going to get the helmets from the kids, which I will be bothering the mayor to get those helmets again. So I'm not afraid to ask for assistance, nor I'm afraid to ask for money from other people, I'm not embarrassed about anything. So I can go on and on and on and on, but I know I have my student connectors that would love to come in and share also what they do here. So I thank you very much from the bottom of my heart, and thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Tough to follow that, huh?
No.
I just want to interject, I was able to work with Tina, and she's a spitfire. And everybody knows what I'm saying. She's just a gift. You're a real gift to us and our kids, Tina. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Samu. I'm a parent-student connector here in Marshall Public School. I speak Korean. I came from Thailand refugee camp. In 2011, May, I arrived in Marshall as a single, and now I have a family. I'm married. I have a son. He's a part of Marshall Public School already. Now he's in ECFE and Little Curve Preschool, which is great. I'm in the school, my son's school. So, yeah. I was living, before I came here, I was living in a refugee camp for about 8 years. When I came in, we flee in Thailand for when I was 12 years old. And I lived there, I went to school there, I finished high school. I came in here in 2011, I was under 21 years old, so I still went to Marshall High School, senior high school here. But I didn't graduate. But I met some awesome teacher that referred me to, in order to have a diploma or some sort of high school level education. So I continued go to ABE, and I finished my GED, get my GED there, and I've been working at Schwann for 4 years. And this is my second year working as a parent-student connector, and which is great for me. And I hope I can stay as long as Tina, so I can be called Grandpa Sa. Yeah, look at my picture. I'm a SOS Tina, but I'm not there yet. I mean, this is my second year, and I love. Yeah, I mean, but I would like to share a little bit story where we came from in Thailand, Burma refugee camp. We know we have a lot of family that came from that area, and the same background. We've been there with the civil war going on in our country, and then we've been in a refugee camp, and there's a different opportunity that we did get here and there. So there's a huge opportunity here, as I see, for our family and children that go in here, but there's a barrier that the language is a huge challenge. And then, you know, when we came here, we were thinking already we were just like a reborn. Even I'm 21 years old, but I've been living in America for 7 years, so I'm just like 7 years old, because when I came here, I had to relearn through everything, the system, the school, the clinic, the law, so which is a lot of our family are challenging as well in the school setting. So I'm one of a person that work in the school setting, so I can educate, and I have to work with my family to share information about the school setting, and so they understand clearly, and then they can make decision on their child education and moving forward. So this is one of my dreams. Working as a parent-student connector, I like to working with them, so they understand things, how the American system and, you know, the education setting and everything. So as I'm able to do so, but there's always a challenge, and I don't have a formal education, but I did get an opportunity to went to some high school, finish some high school, and get a GED. So I met a lot of my teachers that taught me through how to get over the challenge and living in a new country. So, yeah, working as a parent-student connector, I like the most thing that I like the most is have to work with a lot of people in the community, whether you are in a different organization now. If I compare my first year working as a parent-student connector, by now I know more people than I knew last year. I know more people than when I was working at Schwann, when I was working at Turkey Valley. Because working in a public place, you got to know, you know a lot of teachers, a lot of great people. So if I wasn't working in the school, I don't know how the school the school board or the school setting, maybe I won't be able to stand in here and then talking, speaking to you. So, yeah, my dream is working as a parent-student connector, looking forward to keep working with family and get to know more people, learning community resources. And I know there's a lot of people in the community that are willing to help and, have for even the same thing. There's out there opportunity for us to work with and, make this place a beautiful place for all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for allowing me.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jesus Reyes. I'm from Mexico City. I just came Marshall, 2000. Why Marshall? My wife family living here. They got 2 brothers, 1 sister. I don't have any family here around in Marshall. I have 2 sisters in Arizona. I have 3 kids. My daughter graduated 4 years ago from Marshall High School. By my time I came here, we don't have this kind of service in the school. I just kind of just go conference and just get in and listen to the teachers and say like, "Are you okay?" They say, "Yeah, I'm okay." "Do you got any question?" And say, "Oh no." And I just kind of run from the school because I don't understand much. Be honest, I just started learning my English 7 years ago, and it is a big challenge to be here. From my country, I just decided to came here to try to get a better future for my kids. My daughter came when she was 3 years old, and by my time I came here, I just lose a lot of family. My grandpa, I just grew up with my grandpa, my grandma, and they killed my uncle there. And my brother passed away 4 years ago. It is hard for me. And my mom, she's the only one live in Mexico, and she's a little sick, but she's okay. To be a parent and student connector, for me, it is a big challenge because we have the opportunity to work with families for different countries. Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, a few, I'm not really sure, for Nicaragua, Mexico. And it's really nice to try to help people and try to provide all the services, And I have a big opportunity from Bruce, thank you, Tina, Amanda. By my time, I just got my interview. To be a parent and a student connector, they come in for my heart. I do a lot of things for, I never do before. I just do last year. This is going to be my 2nd year, heart to heart. Now I just got the opportunity to do a package for food for kids. I just did it like 3 times already. And to be around like he says, to be part of the district, working for the school, it is, to every day is different. It is really different, and it is a big opportunity. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Rita Ali, and I am one of the parents and student connector. I work with the Somali community. This is my 3rd year being with the Pueblo School. Before that, I worked with the Head Start for 1 year, and then after that, I just came here for work. This is my 5th year living in Marshall. I came in the United States end of 1998. I was very young. I started from elementary schools. I finished my high school to Seattle, Washington. I got married there, got 3 kids. I kind of feel lonely. I only have my sister here in Minneapolis. So I kind of feel lonely, and so I just want to move close to my sister. The purpose was that just, close family. So when I came to the cities, I couldn't find apartment to rent. It was just, I stayed there for 2 months. Couldn't find apartment, so I just got called or, friends to know someone living here. So I just moved here. And then I find the job, so I got stuck. I don't have to even live close to my sister anymore. So I love what I'm doing. I love my jobs. I enjoy most of them. There's a time, you get frustrated, but, after the end of it, I feel good, For my journey coming to United States, my sister brought me here as a refugee. So I lived in the refugee camp, I think, like a couple of months. I don't even remember, but I can't describe it. I didn't know. I was very young. I was just a kid, just go outside and play. I don't know how the family was struggling and all that. I never went to school, and back home for my elementary, it was my first time being at school. And it's very hard. I struggled. I cried. I remembered. For 8 years, I did not talk to my mom or my dad. I just feel sad and emotional when I hear my sister talking to my mom. Every time I heard my sister saying to mom and talking on the phone, I just ran inside the room, get a pillow and act like I'm sleeping. And I just close my room and I say, I talk to mom tomorrow. Or I talk to mom another time. It took me 8 years. After 8 years, I finally, grow up and be in the middle schools, and, I realized the, reality and how life it is. And, I remember crying on my graduation in high school when I see my friend standing her mom or grandma next to her. It was very sad, but, that's the time I start talking to my mom and saying hello, and my dreams when I was young, I love to be, just a housewife. I don't used to like to be at school or go outside. I used to say, like, I'm going to get married and I'm being a housewife, The man's going to do everything else. It didn't happen. That's not the... It didn't happen. I find out the truth, after I get into the real life. I have to work. I have to take care of the kids. I have to be alone. Now I have to be the father and the mother with my kids. I have 3 kids. So life is tough sometimes, we have to deal with it. And, I very enjoy it. I see my kids, my friends now, and, the family that I have here now is just the parent I work with. That's my family. I don't have another family. That's the family I depend on. That's the family when I need something or get sick or, rights or, that's the family I call, the family I work with, so. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it, and have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you, Connectors, for introducing yourself a little bit to the board. I do have a few more things to share with you. I kind of like... maybe I should have just ended right there, because hopefully you guys can all see the passion that they put into this job, the caring, and how much they appreciate everything that they have and how much they appreciate everything they can do for our students here at school, which is amazing things. When Mr. Munson asked me to come in here to introduce the Parent-Student Connectors, I was very happy. I was very proud to be able to do that, and then he asked me to tell the board what they do, and that's really hard because they do so much here, and their jobs are endless, but once they start something with someone, they see it through till the very end. So we do have a mission statement up there that was taken off there, so I just kind of pulled some things from our mission statement, and hopefully I'll just kind of visit with you a little bit on some of the things we can do. We have a lot of pictures in here, but one thing we really don't get into the real deep weeds of the pictures and a lot of the other things that they could do that I'll hopefully explain. So we'll just cruise on to the next slide there. One of the things in the mission is to promote the healthy development. Our Parent-Student Connectors, just as one example that I can give you, work really closely with the Open Door, and that's the group that comes to our schools in grades kindergarten through 8th grade, right? And then, so they first came here at the beginning of the school year, and they had 8 students that came. And they met with us, and they asked, how can we increase the attendance for this year? They come out of Mankato. They didn't believe it was worth their time to come to Marshall for 8 students to see. And so we talked a little bit about it. We put the parent-student connectors on that. And then we asked them, how much would you like to see? And they said about 15 students. And then we actually had, the last time they here, we had 63 packets ready, so they could have seen 63 students that day. That's the type of work that they do. They work a lot with their school nurses. Whether a student is sick, they might be calling the hospital. They might be calling home to explain what's wrong with the kid. They might find out different things for medication and things like that. They also help with doctor's appointments. And just like tonight, they went with the student to the emergency room so they could have translation with the nursing staff and the doctors and things like that. Our parent-student connectors sit in on many IEPs, and they work with the special education teachers to help explain what an IEP is and what the special education program can do. So they explain a lot of our programs to our families also. And I think some of them actually went through some extra training last summer to get, well, I know some of you, 2 or 3 of you did, right? To get certified to be an IEP interpreter, which took some extra training, extra time. It was really a great extra effort on their part because their daily job didn't go away when they were taking this class also. And then there's a lot of things that they do with the community as far as resources, connections, and things like that we've already talked about. Another thing that the goal of our students is to have them in social development. They have taken them to a lot of different places. We've went on bicycle trips, we've went on camping trips, we've taken fishing trips. They went to the state capitol. They have been to Alexandria, to the Viking days or something like that there. Just a lot of different things that they really try to get our students outside of the community and just see what else our country has to offer or our state of Minnesota has to offer for them. So we got a little bit, this is one of the things when they were in Alexandria, they got to do the canoeing. And from there, community involvement, one thing that they do, the Culture United's Club has adopted Highway 19 as a cleanup. So this was one thing that they were doing is took the kids out and part of that giving back service for them. And this is a picture of the students at the state capitol. Okay. And then this is one of our biking trips that we went on. And then that was the first one we went on where we biked to Camden State Park. On that trip, we ran into the mayor of Marshall, and that's where Tina started talking to him. And pretty soon on the next trip, all the kids had bicycle helmets to wear. So go to the next one. I just kind of put this one in to be funny here with Build Resilience because I don't know, we're probably pretty natural to ice skating, but I'm going to guess that over in Thailand or Somalia or even Mexico, there are probably not too many of them went ice skating, so probably a little resilience there. And then if you notice, in the middle of that canoe, out in the middle of the lake, those kids are with Tina as their leader, so I think that's resilience also. So.
I don't see a paddle in your hand, Tina.
That's the skipper. She's got her hat on. So, and then I just wanted to talk to you about one of our big events and how it all came together. So I'll just use this fishing day as an example. Started out with probably an idea from one of them, or maybe one of the kids said something about what is that there, what they talk about with fishing and things like that. So, I mean, the way this all happens, they all have their strengths, and they all do some really great things. But Tina took and got the initiative to get this fishing trip lined up through the DNR, where she worked with a young man that came out to teach some fishing skills. So if we go on to the next page there, I think we got some of the things that they did. Of course, we had some education involved with that where they were teaching about the skills in the class. Then we also had some hands-on experiences with the kids casting the rods and things like that. One of the other things we called Fartun our fishing guide, because if you notice, she's got the vest on, so that makes her an official fishing guide from there. And then I know Mr. Munchin is a big fisherman, and we just want to have you see Saw's catch there. It's like that big. So anyways, what we didn't talk about, what we don't have pictures of that they do, they spend a lot of time at parent-teachers conferences, and when you start throwing in the elementary, Parkside, Westside, middle school, high school, that's a lot of nights in the school year that they're participating in conferences. They're big into registration. I know that first year here, I got to see them really huge in action as far as registering students, registering families, and they're getting that to be a better and a smoother process because like they talked about coming something brand new to country, and now you have to register for school. I mean, that's just a whole another world for a lot of people. They're new families that they help out so much with, and we've gotten, I think at Parkside alone, we've gotten 4 or 5 new families this year, and that doesn't include any of the other ones, other schools. So you can imagine the amount of effort that they put in there. When students are absent or whether they need to go to appointments, the parents need to communicate with the school. We need to line up logistics and things like that. They take care of that. They do a lot of the community outreach, working with different organizations, getting organizations in our school, getting our kids with these organizations. And I think and I hope that you all know what great caring individuals these four people are, because they really put their heart into their job. I think that's all I have, but if you have any questions for these 4, they'll be happy to answer them. I know Fartun loves to talk in front of people, she says, so... But anyways, once again, I'd like to thank you guys for having our 4 parent-student connectors here. They do a world of work for a world of people. So, thank you.
Thank you.
No questions?
If you turn on the TV or the radio or read the paper, all you ever hear about is negative, negative, negative. A lot of people think that there's more negative in the world than there's positive, but then they never hear about the good. And I'm a big believer there's more good in the world than there's evil. And you guys are a perfect example by leading your lives the way you do. These are examples for us. And I just want to personally thank you all. And I never ask a teacher a question, ever, so.
How about the grandmother?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to our action items, approval of the plan to distribute Southwest West Central Health Insurance rebate. Do we have any motion?
So moved. I'll second.
It's open for discussion.
Bruce, can you give a little background information on this and share what the plan is?
In January, we received notification from the service cooperative, Doug Dergish specifically, that because of favorable experience, the district was going to get a rebate check of close to $19,000, $18,860 to be exact. And we went through a process with the insurance committee on how we might distribute that rebate, and we gave them really 2 options. One, for those plan holders that had, so to speak, skin in the game, that were contributing over and above what the district amount was as far as a contribution, that we would maybe give that money back, distribute it equally to those people that were plan holders that were in fact paying premium over and above what the school district was contributing. Or the other option was that anybody that was on the plan effective February 1st, whether they were contributing or the district was contributing all the funding, that they would have an opportunity to get a piece of the pie, which turned out to be $81.65. And we took a vote, and the vote turned out to go ahead with everyone that was a plan holder being able to have their portion of the rebate come back to them to be put towards their VEBA or their HSA. If they didn't have a VEBA or HSA, we would retro their premium amount back, give them a credit on their premium, or the 4th option is a Flex HSA card that they can apply to a doctor's visit or whatever. So those are the options. And upon your approval, we'll work through that process with all 231 of our staff. And so I'm very comfortable with what we did, and we're fortunate to be able to be in that position. In all the years that I've been here, I do not recall that we have ever gotten a rebate back through the insurance pool. So it's a good thing.
Good.
Any
more-
questions?
Any other comments? Vote. Is approved. Approval of the Pathways to Summer Scholarship Program. Motion to approve.
I'll second.
It's open for discussion.
Well, there's a descriptor there of what the Pathways to Summer School program is all about. And as Mr. Munson had said earlier, it was because of our voluntary pre-K and School Readiness Plus programs and the funding that we received there that allowed us to use the Pathways $2 in a different way, and it'll be spread out over 2 fiscal years, 17-18 and 18-19. And I think it's a great opportunity to expand our offerings, especially with our summer offerings.
Very good. Call for a vote. Is approved. Authorization to hire or to advertise and hire Pathways to positions. Motion to approve.
I'll second.
It's open for discussion.
And this is just really in conjunction with the budget that had been developed and I think shared with you as far as staffing that program starting in June and continuing through July.
Very good.
And by the way, the only way that we receive the Pathways to funding is to actually spend ahead of time and then get reimbursed.
But you like that, don't you?
I like it all, Mr. Chapman.
I got an error. What's that? I've never gotten this error before.
This is a new error.
Yeah, there we go. We're right on. And since I had to crash the computer before we ended the meeting, anything else?
Somebody from the public wants to-
Oh, yes, please.
I apologize. I know it's 2 minutes late. Do I have an opportunity for the public?
Yes,
forum?
please
Sure.
come up.
I feel like I'm talking to the principal.
All right. Is this an opportunity for me to ask questions as well? Because I prefer not just to speak at you. Would that be allowable for you? Depending on the question, I suppose.
Typically, unless somebody knows something I don't, the board has no idea what this is about. And,
Well, I'll let you know right away what it's about. And before I even ask you those questions, especially with what was going on last week and those events preceding it, the difficulty that you as a board and the administrators had to battle with in terms of what you were going to do and how you were going to respond to what was happening nationally, I respect that. With that in mind, I do have a few questions in regards to the protest, the walkout, or the assemblies that took place last Wednesday. Is that okay?
I think you can just have a statement, and we'll take your statement.
Okay. Well, can I have a very specific question, which was there was 2 emails sent out from the middle school. I never saw anything from the high school because I don't have a high school student. Thank you for that, by the way, because it shared with us what you guys were planning and the follow-up to that. In the middle school one, it specifically said that 12 students walked off campus. Were they excused, or was that something that they chose to do?
I couldn't tell you. I'd have to follow up on it. None of the board members will know
Okay.
Well, the answer.
And how come that is?
How come?
So if we had 12 students leave campus in regards to a national protest, wouldn't our board be aware as to were they excused or not excused?
Our principal would be aware of that, yes. I believe that's a principal administrative responsibility, not necessarily the board.
But they
The
report
board
to-
can speak, in terms of delegating that authority to administration.
Okay. So I do have a few challenges. I don't mean to challenge you guys as individuals, but this moment in our time for our students in particular is pretty significant. Obviously, you guys took action specifically as principals to address it, right? And one of my concerns as a parent of two students in this system is why we chose what we chose as the way to address it. And that's why I'd like to ask you those questions. Was it a board decision to respond in the way in which we did?
The board didn't have any input.
So the
how the protest was set up and how the principal handled the situation.
And why is that?
We hire administrators to do the job.
And they report to you, correct?
We set policy.
Yep.
We take care of the budget, and we hire personnel.
Okay.
And we trust our personnel to do the work together.
Yep, no, I respect that. That's why I'm asking the questions. Because it concerns me in particular that we called it a protest. What are we protesting? What was the protest?
Who called it a protest?
Are you the high school principal? Whoever the high school principal was, in his letter that was on the agenda, addressed it as the national protest. In the follow-up emails, it was addressed as a response to the protests happening. Why?
I think that's just simply because that's what everybody nationally was calling it.
Calling what?
The walkout.
So why did we as an education system allow a walkout to protest something ambiguous? What are we protesting? School violence? Right? Because if we're protesting school violence, there has to be somebody that's for it.
Kevin, what's your point? What are you after here, please?
Well, okay. I'm not attacking you.
Just be specific.
I don't like the response that we had as administrators, and it's not you guys. You made that clear to me, which is why I wanted to ask the questions first. And so those that report to you didn't handle it in a way that personally I find appropriate, but I'd like to have a conversation as parents as to why we chose to address it that way. Why did we choose to allow our students to assembly and protest something? I know it was meant as a civics lesson, but a lesson in what?
Well,
A lesson in shouting?
I can tell you that I strongly, 100%, support every administrator we have that works for us.
So do I. That's why I'm asking the questions.
That you didn't like the way a letter was written to you with a certain word in there, you should address the person that wrote the letter. But I back
Fair.
our
That's very
administrators,
fair.
okay?
No, I do too, but
If you didn't want your children to be part of the assembly, you have the right not to have them be part of the assembly.
completely agree with you. But what are they protesting? What was the reason for the assembly? It's to share their First Amendment rights that was shared with all the emails that was sent out. What's the meaning behind that? What were we teaching our kids by gathering during this national moment in the Marshall school system?
I'd
To
like
express their
speak
First
with
Amendment
reference
rights?
to what my granddaughter said. She's a freshman at the high school.
Yep.
I read Mr. Jones's letter to the high school students, and we have 2 high school students here, to the high school students' parents. My granddaughter went to the walk-in at the high school, 300 students or perhaps, and I asked her, how did that go? And she said, Grandpa, it was very solemn. We spent a minute in silence for the 17 victims. And she said, what we addressed there were what are positive things we can do proactively as students to help everybody belong and feel important
Fantastic.
in our building. So I strongly support that proactive approach that was taken.
I do too. I do too. And I guess that's my point, is that part of the assembly was not only fantastic, but we should encourage that behavior. It was more listening than shouting. And maybe it is I'm a little concerned about the semantics that were sent out, but because of that, I'm also concerned about the semantics that were being shared with the students themselves, which is why I came here to ask questions. I'm not mad. I know my voice is quivering because I'm speaking in front of you right now, but that's where I'm at. I agree with you, Mr. Swope, that is important. But when we approach it from an opportunity to express our First Amendment rights, what are we telling them? It's your First Amendment right to speak. But what were they speaking in protest against?
I guess I'm not following you either, because at the high school level, and my son was involved with it too, and very proud to be part of the walk up, it was not a protest. It was more of a gathering of students to be there to support students and look out for students. There was no protest to it. So I guess.
Correct, Amina and Amran?
Yeah.
Which is fantastic, and I believe all the positive effects in it. But even as these great student leaders here, when they addressed it to you, how did they address it? The protest was a success, or something. I forget what the first three words were. And I guess that's my concern, is that we have to make sure that we're not, as leaders of these students, addressing it in such terms. And more importantly, that's my concern as a parent. What's being communicated to my kids during these tough times, right? Was it a First Amendment assembly, or was it the great things that I also heard? I'm not in an argument with you, Bill. I'm really not.
I was very pleased as a parent to get that notification from Mr. Jones on Tuesday afternoon.
So was I.
It gave me an opportunity to have a conversation with my son, and he got to choose what he wanted to do. It was an opportunity for me to be a parent, and that's where the responsibility lies. If we want to blame administrators for making decisions that adversely affect our kids, we're not doing our job as parents.
I agree with you. And
I think we did a great job.
Hopefully, you know, I'm not blaming anybody. I'm asking questions. I'm not trying to cast aspersions upon anybody right now. I'm trying to get an understanding of what the intent was, and that's why I came to the board. Go ahead.
So I guess I think we've all said that the intent of the student-led gathering was to gather and put a recognition of standing up for each other.
Okay.
So what is the question?
So it starts with the conflict, I guess, with those 12 students. Because all those great benefits I appreciated, but then when I read that note where 12 students walked off campus, but the good news was that they were supervised, which is great. I mean, they were doing their jobs. It was a tough environment. But what's our response to that? Why are we allowing walkouts, walk-ups, or whatever it's called? I apologize, girls. That's fantastic. And what's the message? What are we as teachers challenging our students to do? Come together, be nicer to each other, be more involved with each other, right? Those are great messages. But what was the First Amendment right that we were trying to get these kids to shout out?
Sir, the whole thing was to honor the 17 kids who lost their lives for no reason. And at our high school, the reason we had that whole thing was because there are some students who are going through different things and struggling. For example, if you're a high school student and you don't have friends to talk to, there will be some ideas, and at a point, sometime in your life, you're going to be thinking, oh my gosh, I'm alone. So it was an encouragement for all the students at the Marshall High School to say hi to someone else. It was teaching us kindness, and it was just an honor to honor these 17 kids who lost their lives for no reason. So it was a peaceful protest. We called it a peaceful protest. We had to walk up. There was no like walk out, because our principal said there's no not walk out, because he announced it in the morning. There's going to be consequences. Whoever gets out of the building,
right.
You were not allowed to do that. So it was more of like a peaceful protest.
Okay, maybe I'm into the semantics, but I appreciate that, because you're right. We should honor those that lost their lives in a terrible process. But the idea of a protest, and especially as us as teachers and as board members and whatever we are, to continue to encourage that message. And it bothers me because it's a divisive language, right? And ultimately what the moment of the assembly was to bring us together. And so when we send out emails, when we send out correspondence, let's make sure that we don't use divisive language in there, because when we use protest, it becomes political. I don't care what anybody's political thought is. That's not what it was meant to do, but that's what it encourages, right?
I don't like the word protest, but I do. I grew up down south. I went through desegregation. I saw the worst of what it was. And to me, when you use the word protest, that's standing up for your rights.
I completely agree with you. I guess that's my point, Jeff, is what was the protest? What are we against?
Well,
school violence?
It wasn't a protest.
It's not against. It doesn't have to be against, though. I think it's the way you're looking at the word protest. I mean, I think the students, the majority of the students, I know my son when I talked to him, they were protesting more of a gathering and a unity. Protest against, if you want to say protests against anything, it was probably protest against not being for each other, you know? So protest doesn't always have to be a negative thing. They can protest to be united together and protest against
lack of inclusion. Okay, I'll take that.
You could use the word letter to the editor as a protest letter, or it could be used as a letter to the editor.
But there's a target, and there's an alternative perspective to that. What's the protest of school violence? Who's for it?
I guess the people that create it.
Right, and obviously they're maniacs. They're 1 in a billion, right? When we encourage the dialogue of protest in these events, we're encouraging politicism. And now it didn't happen in Marshall, thankfully, right? There was moments all across Minnesota that were far worse and they got politicized nationally. And I guess that's what I'm looking for as the conversation with the board, is that when we face this in the future again, that we're very careful with the language that we communicate with the students and with the parents. Because the last thing we can be is divisive regardless of our own political opinions, and encourage that out of our students. Because that's what it leads to. It didn't lead to it apparently here in Marshall, which is great. But we got to work on how we communicate that outward. Because even as I ask you, what are we protesting? I like your explanation.
Point's been taken. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else for the good of the cause? Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.